So I'm going to go ahead and start. I want to, first of all, welcome all of you who are here in person, but also our online audience. And we have a large group of people across the country and maybe elsewhere even. So it's really a pleasure to invite you to this and welcome you to this January breakfast. I'm Tom Richard. I'm the Interim Executive Director of the Global Council for Science and the Environment. And our organization has been involved in sustainability education for many years, as have I. I've been a career educator and researcher in sustainability, starting actually very early in my career at Edmonds Community College and working at UC Berkeley and Cornell University and Iowa State, and most recently for about 20 years at Penn State University. I retired from that position this summer, which gave me an opportunity to get more involved with GCSE, this program, and others. This particular program grew out of a community of practice of educators from our various organizations, higher education across the country. And for the last few years, it's been supported by the Mitchell Foundation to try to really push forward, what does it mean to be a sustainability program? And we're going to be spending some time talking about that today. But it's a really important question. And there are actually many different kinds of sustainability programs, all of which are important. But we'll be focusing on some that might be particularly good targets for accreditation. So this particular program is called Pathways to Accreditation, and it's centering on justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And it's been led for the last 18 months by Krista Heiser. During that process, Krista has engaged over 500 stakeholders through monthly meetings that some of you have participated in online, quarterly roundtables, conferences and workshops, presentations and research, campus visits. She was at one earlier this week in Ohio. And also engaging with the national and international groups that do accreditation. And she'll be back at the conference, the Council in Higher Education's annual conference on that topic next week. In short, Krista lives and breathes sustainability. And she will be helping us understand more about that this morning. One of the things that I learned early about sustainability is it's not really a destination, it's a pathway. And so for this part of our path and journey towards sustainability, please welcome Krista Heiser.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Can you take that? Well, thank you, everybody. We're going to be sharing a lot of information today from this Pathways Toward Accreditation initiative. I'm going to be following what I'll call 5 chapters, beginning with the story of proliferation and messiness. So this is just an overview. I'm going to dive right in, so buckle up. We began 18 months ago. Some of you were at this breakfast last January, and we began with this story of this line. The first sustainability degree program at Arizona State in 2006, and then the proliferation of these programs across the higher education landscape, leading up to today, where the ASHE Community Hub database is really the best source to know how many sustainability degrees and programs are there in the United States. There's approximately 4,000 institutions and 1,020 that I would call sustainability degree programs at the bachelor's and master's level. And that information comes from historical census reports that GCSE conducted with Shirley Vincent in the past. The last one was in 2017. I wish we had a current census report because Shirley also included environmental studies and sciences, or what she classified as interdisciplinary environmental sustainability and energy degree programs. So this is a dotted line that is also increasing and parallels the sustainability story, but goes back, of course, into the 60s and 70s, and environmental studies and sciences is also growing and going strong in our universities as its own field. However, there's a lot of messiness with minors and concentrations and certificates. If you go back to that ASHE database and include all academic disciplines, you'll find 3,539 sustainability and related programs. So the story of proliferation and messiness. We created all these programs because students are interested in sustainability. They want to study it. They want jobs and careers that will help them do good things in the world. So we made them for students and student success, but our universities are on fire. One of my favorite books by academic futurist Brian Alexander. And the higher ed landscape is really looking at a complex set of trends, including climate crisis, enrollment declines, the value of college degrees, student debt load, that kind of thing, institutional consolidations, particularly with our community colleges, and a changing workforce economy and political landscape. Going back to that student with an interest in sustainability, they want to come to college, but how do they know what to major in? They kind of stumble into their majors because they don't know which degree at which level is going to get them to their desired career path and prepare them for life in a complex future. So there's many organizations sort of working to align the field and make this easier for students and support faculty and institutions. GCSE kind of has been looking at the sustainability degree, but other organizations like ASHE holds the space for the sustainability across the disciplines conversation. The NAAEE accredits environmental education programs. These are the programs that prepare what's called informal educators at nature centers and so forth. Environmental studies and sciences, this prepares students for a slightly different career path in natural resource management and so forth. The Carnegie classification system is considering a new elective classification in sustainability. Would that help to clarify this? And there's a new organization emerging called the National Sustainability Society. They're having a meeting in September, and they're really looking at the workforce preparation component and aligning with jobs and careers. So what's the student to do? I added this asterisk to remind myself to mention that although this student is a stock photo, she represents the demographic of who majors in sustainability at the master's level. It's 62% female and 85% Caucasian. So how do we make sustainability as a degree field more inviting and accessible to a greater diversity of students and create programs at under-resourced institutions? So that's all part of the mix we're looking at here. I mentioned that we'd love to have an updated census. So we had two very smart interns last year, and we gave them 100 university names, a mix of community colleges, tribal colleges, ASHE schools, Times Higher Ed ranked schools, and then we let them each choose a few they were interested in. So kind of a stratified random sample. And just looking at program titles, these were the words that they found. So, you know, it's very complex, and that's what we mean by messiness. This brings us to the sustainability skills gap. You've probably read one or more of these reports looking at this skills gap, which has two parts. One, there's a basic supply and demand situation where employers, workforce, they want students with sustainability skills. That's part of the gap. And they want students with a particular technical skill set that some of the academic programs are perhaps not meeting. And is the academic path the best place for that technical workforce training, those technical skills? And here's Julian Canary, who'll be speaking on our panel today about that very thing. What a perfect entrance. So for example, just in the area of water management, we asked ChatGPT, what are the skills for water management? And there's this whole technical skill set list, and then the professional skills, which are also evolving and now include complex decision-making and implementation in a complex professional skill set. So how do these two, how do we prepare students for both the technical skills and those professional skills? We've really been talking about the myth of this sustainability career pipeline. It's not like those students interested in sustainability come to college, get a sustainability degree that then spits them into a perfect sustainability career. It's really not a pipeline. A better metaphor is the sustainability career watershed. Students come to sustainability degrees from many different undergraduate preparation, many different interests. They find their way into sustainability, and then they circulate like the water cycle through our institutions, perhaps picking up additional certificates and credentials, and then moving out into a wide landscape of careers. We say sometimes all jobs are green jobs, right? And then they cycle back through our institutions to gain more credentials, stackable credentials and advanced degrees. So to use another water term, this situation is a bit of a confluence. On the one hand, we have the proliferation and messiness. On the other hand, we have the sustainability skills gap with workforce preparation. And this has kind of led to questioning these programs, their quality, the diversity, and their impact. So that was the question that brought together the NASEM committee and this report, which you've probably also read in 2020, on strengthening sustainability programs and curriculum. We have been trying to answer the call of this NASEM report, which said there's a need for some common core competencies and a need to translate those core competencies into program level learning outcomes, assessment tools, and effective curricula. At the same time, not telling anybody how to do sustainability because there is no one way. So these programs are very different, as they should be, and yet there's a need for a little more coherence through competencies and outcomes. How do we prepare sustainability professionals? We do it through quality academic sustainability degree programs. How do we make those? We do that through consistent program level standards. How do we create consistent program level standards? Well, we think that the key competencies in sustainability framework, there's been a convergence around this framework, and we think it can be very useful in contributing to that coherence while allowing for the diversity and complexity of the sustainability landscape and career watershed. This is an interactive landing page that we're working on. In the center, it will talk about how the true aim of all of our programs is a thriving biosphere for all life on Earth, with humans as part of nature and addressing justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion as part of that human climate. And then around the outside are icons representing the key competencies in sustainability. And this will take you through each of those aspects of this complex skill set and sort of way of thinking and creating a sustainability mindset. These are the 8 integrated key competencies in sustainability. A key competency means a cluster of more specific competencies. So it's a very kind of high level clustering of specific competencies. They're interrelated. And as you'll see when you get a chance to look through the learning module, values thinking plays a leading role, and that justice equity has been embedded into the key competencies in sustainability. So we use these key competencies in sustainability education as a way of bringing our programs towards convergence. This framework, I'm sure you're familiar with the scholarship, which goes back now 2 decades. has been a foundation of our Pathways Toward Accreditation program. We've been following sort of 5 components. We mentioned the justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and expanding the accessibility. This morning, we'll be talking about the key competencies and how that can serve in these programs, and professional resources, and a module for student learning that we're getting ready to release. And then for the folks able to stay in DC, we'll be looking at draft standards that could move toward a program accreditation, perhaps at the master's level. We created a high-level Sustainability Education Leadership Advisory Council, the CLEC, and I want to acknowledge a couple of these people. Ali Whitmer is here with us today. She's been really active and helpful. On the top left, Dr. Manulani Aluli-Meyer is one of my personal mentors from University of Hawaii, West Oahu, and she really talked with us about Indigenous worldview and how to bring that more into the framework. And in the center top row, Guia Bianchi, who authored the European Union's Green Comp Framework. So the European Union has a common framework. And I also wanted to mention Dorcita Taylor and Ann Kapuzinski, because they were on that NASEM committee report. So some continuity in meeting those recommendations. I've really enjoyed working with the GCSE scholars team with 2 scholars from Arizona State University, Katja Brungiers and Jordan King. They've really been driving the scholarship on the key competencies. They're wonderful people to work with. I also want to acknowledge Rod Parnell. Rod spent a whole year in Australia learning about the Australian competency framework, right? So what we're talking about is, what is the United States? What can we contribute to this conversation about competencies? And later on, you'll get to talk with April Deckert, who is the instructional designer who created the learning module we'll share with you today. And I couldn't do any of this work without Alex Ramey, not only because she's awesome, but because she actually has a master's degree in sustainability. So she is the audience that we're talking about. A lot of the faculty creating and teaching in these programs don't have sustainability degrees because they didn't exist. So it's really great to have Alex on the team. We're expanding the scholars team. It's a living scholarship. It's a living framework. It's iterative. It's evolving. So we're interested in expanding this scholarship to continue moving it forward. The scholars team presented so many conferences this year, because that's where these conversations happen. And we wrote a book chapter that's coming out soon. We produced a proposal statement. Jordan and Katja wrote a proposal statement on the key competencies. This was then in an extended peer review through our website. The report was mentioned as a significant publication in the ASHE Sustainable Campus Index. I mentioned that just to show that we've really been trying to align with ASHE and other organizations in the field so that we can really collaborate, synergize, and work together. The input from that proposal statement process will be updated into something like the user's guide to key competencies in sustainability, and we like to call it the convergence statement, because we're all beginning to understand what it is that students need for the future. And our purpose, again, is creating dynamic and context-sensitive guidance for diversity of programs. But Krista, what exactly is a sustainability program, right? We get past what is sustainability, and then we get to the question of what is a sustainability program. So we're going to unpack this 4D model, which comes out of a paper by Aaron Redman and Arnhem Week 2021. We found it useful in thinking about this. So we have these 2 axes, from content-dependent information to content-independent competencies, from generic to specific. And this is where the key competences reside in this quadrant of specific content independent skill set, building on a general professional competencies, building on general competencies, and parallel with disciplinary competencies and content knowledge. So we're going to unpack that those four dimensions. The key competencies include planning competencies, professional competencies, and action, how to get things done. They build on what is similar to people skills, communication, project management, team building, and ethics. They build on 21st century skills like critical thinking and creativity and learning. And in the disciplines, the academic disciplines is where the topic information on climate and water and energy and food, and nobody can cover all of those topics equally. So the content information resides often in the disciplines, and that technical skill set, it also happens in the disciplinary and content knowledge. So I'm going to add these blobs here. General education leans toward this corner. It's content independent and generic competency building. We get into content dependent, and this is that ASHE conversation around sustainability across the curriculum. There's a wonderful group that meets regularly, and they are using the key competencies framework to look at what does, for example, systems thinking look like in political science? What does futures thinking look like in the humanities? And they are building that into the disciplines. The more sustainability there is in the academic disciplines becomes even more important to then distinguish, well, then what is the sustainability degree? Then you have sustainability related disciplinary grounded programs. That's a mouthful, but if you think about it, you can think of a program on your campus that is disciplinary grounded. It's a political science degree, but it has an emphasis or a concentration in sustainability, making it a sustainability related degree. And then you have sustainability programs. So there's a lot of overlap, and yet there's a clear place where each of these dimensions operate. So Katja Brungers created a different view of how the key competencies can bring together those four different dimensions by looking at the proportion and the sort of level of competence in the key competencies across those different domains. Okay, so you might begin to see yourself, you know, are you in sustainability across the curriculum? Are you in a sustainability related disciplinary based program, and so forth? This is going to bring us, this afternoon, we'll be introducing the learning module and starting a beta test. It'll be open through February to look at how we can introduce these to students. We're going to watch the first video in the learning module together.
Hi, my name is Cecilia. I'm from Germany, and I got interested in studying sustainability when I learned about climate change and the effects that humans have on the planet in a geography class during high school. I went on to study geoecology in my bachelor's and moved on to environmental policy for my master's. I've just started a PhD in sustainability at Arizona State University. Just like any professional, say a doctor or a lawyer or a technology expert, there's a certain skill set and way of thinking that we learn in sustainability education, which is still evolving to meet the needs of communities and prepare students for careers across different sectors of the new green economy and for life. I'm going to give you an overview of the key competencies in sustainability framework and talk you through an example so you can apply this framework to a sustainability challenge that you care about. This module is for students, faculty, employers, community members, or anyone interested in how sustainability thinking can help you work with others to choose actions that make a difference. After completing this learning module, you will be able to describe the key competencies in sustainability framework, apply the 8 interrelated competencies to your own example, and reflect on applications, uses, and improvements of the framework. The learning module is organized in short sections. Each section starts with a video that talks through one example and a workbook for you to think through your own example. There are flashcards to reinforce important points and a short quiz at the end to test your understanding, as well as a place to share your examples about real-world, localized sustainability solutions you are working on. After completing the videos, the workbook, the flashcards, and the quiz, you'll receive a certificate that we hope will remind you to continue to reflect on your own thinking.
So our charismatic spokesperson was Susila Bhagavatula. She's just started the PhD program at Arizona State University. So we wanted to create something, rather than giving faculty another report or another workshop to attend, we wanted to give them something that they could use. And by assigning this learning module to their students, just kind of open the conversation about how the key competencies might operate in the course. So as a teacher, I'm very excited about the learning module. You can participate in our beta test in February, and we'll be looking at it a little more closely in the room this afternoon. So where we've come to over the last 18 months, the characteristics of a sustainability degree. These are the degrees that prepare students for specific careers in sustainability across sectors. The degree programs tend to have a problem-solving and a change-making orientation. They are attendant to climate literacy and environmental justice, as well as environmental literacy and climate justice. And they move toward not just interdisciplinary, but transdisciplinary and trans-academic program design. As appropriate in different institutional and contextual situations. So these are the characteristics we've discerned, and we've used these to, again, begin to create some context-sensitive best practices or program standards. There's just certain stuff that programs can do to support the development of key competencies across different types of sustainability programs, and we call these the grounded areas of excellence. In all these conversations, we've asked programs like, well, what do you do that makes your program work? And then tried to take these innovative practices and bring them into the center of the program, right? A lot of times, the things that make a program really strong, like field work or service learning projects, is because faculty are going to great lengths to make these things happen. They tend to get stretched really thin, and we just wanted to bring these innovative practices into the center and make them the aspiration of what the program actually, how it is shaped and created. So we're going to be looking at these detailed best practices a little more today and in our monthly meetings during the spring. And then we like to put this together in a process that we call transformative program evaluation, adding transformative themes like justice, equity, diversity, inclusion that are the strengths or the goals of a particular program. You know, justice is very different from equity, and there's lots of different ways to focus on diversity for a program. It's hard to make a standard around that, but you choose and weave it through the grounded areas. And then same with topics. Not every program can teach everything about water or food, but your program will have a strength, and that strength can be woven through the grounded areas of excellence. So that's where the transformative program evaluation comes in. These are the 8 grounded areas. There's a core. It's how do you organize your program and your unit? Who manages the program? Where do your faculty come from? Where do they reside? Your curriculum, assessment and evaluation, and then teaching and learning strategies, the pedagogies, not just what you teach, but how you teach it. This is the core of the grounded areas. And then these are the support areas that are necessary, a connection with campus commitments to sustainability, to local community, how you support students, faculty support, and the integration with leadership and mission at your university. As you know, without that, it's really hard to create a successful program. So for our online audience, this is how you can participate in our next steps. You can just receive some updates as we move forward with this project through our newsletter. You can join the Sustainability Education of Community Practice. We'll be looking at 1 or 2 of those grounded areas in February and in March and in April. And you can get the link to our beta test and see this learning module. It's going to be free. It will be available to you to use, and we'd love to know how you might use it and how we can make it more usable for you. If you're in our Zoom audience, you can look at that form, and also if you have any questions, you can just begin to populate the chat. I'd like to invite Ali Whitmer and Julian Canary in the space with us today. If you guys wouldn't mind coming to the front of the room. We're going to not have time to share all of the grounded area standards that have been developed with the Zoom audience, but we wanted to give a kind of advanced look to a few people we've been talking to about the program, and just sort of get a little bit of a read. How does this all land with you? So that's the general question for each of our panelists. We have 2 panelists in the room and 2 panelists on Zoom. And I know that's going to work out really smoothly. I'll go ahead and introduce them all first, and then we'll just sort of see how the panel flows. This will be about 30 minutes, and then we'll have 15 minutes for a little bit of Q&A. Alex Ramey will monitor the chat and share out questions from the online audience. So I'm going to introduce all the panelists first. We'll begin with Ali Whitmer. Ali is the Associate Vice President for Strategic Initiatives at Georgetown University. And I asked Ali to sort of speak to, how does this land with you? How would this affect your programs at Georgetown? And Ali, as I mentioned, is also on our CLAC, on our advisory council, and she's just been extremely helpful. So Ali will speak first for about 3 minutes. I will time you guys, so don't be offended if I interrupt you. We're keeping a tight ship today. Then we'll go online and we will spotlight Julian Dautremont-Smith. Julian is the Director of Programs at AISHE, and of course, everybody's familiar with the STARS tracking and rating system. How does this land with AISHE STARS? How would this affect AISHE STARS, or align with or work with AISHE STARS? What would that look like? Then we'll come back in the room with another Julian. Isn't that cool? And hear from Julian Canary. Julian is the principal and founder of the Green Teach for Opportunity. She's really been focused in that sustainability skills gap space and created innovative teacher preparation materials, the Green Upskill. She has a newsletter and different teacher training resources, also thinking about the K-12 teacher education space. And Julian is an independent scholar located here in Washington, D.C. And then we will go back online, and the last word will go to Maria Bocalandro. Maria is the Dean of Special Academic Programs, International Engagement, and Global Competitiveness for the Dallas College District, formerly the Dallas Community College District. So bringing that community college perspective in. And Maria is also the new GCSE board chair. So we're really excited to hear from each of these panelists. And I'll just gently time you, and we'll sort of see how the conversation flows. So you guys each have a mic. Ali, please take it away. I'd like to, while you're speaking, I'm going to switch over to the room view. Just stop share. Okay, thanks, Ali.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone in the room and also on Zoom. It's really a pleasure to see you and to be in this conversation, which, as Krista mentioned, I've been engaged in this project for the full 18 months that it's been going, and looking very much forward to working the next year and a half to continue the conversation. So I will just give you a little, I think probably the best way for me to explain how this is hitting me and how I think about it relative to Georgetown as a context for this conversation. When I started with Krista and others on the advisory council, I was really very much in the land of the messiness, not understanding at all how we were going to get to a place that was strategically aligned with something like accreditation. So I just stood in the messiness for quite a while, thinking there's no possible way we're going to get to any kind of convergence, right? Which is, I'm very glad to say we actually are getting there. And I think the reason I focused so much on the messiness was because of how diverse sustainability education is, right? And as Krista said earlier this morning, it needs to be, because we have so many spaces where we need people to come out with an education in sustainability to do the work that needs to be done. So, but what I started to realize, and the other thing too, I'll just be completely honest about this. I have for at least 20 years of my career in higher education worked in or around accreditation, and I don't like it. It is not fun work. It is not awesome at all. So that was another opinion I had as I came into this conversation. But what I am finding is that without being overly directive, we can talk about competencies in a way that students will be able to apply to many kinds of disciplinary knowledge, and be able to interact with each other using a common vocabulary and a common set of skills. And so I've gotten really behind this work. I also think it's important because while an accreditation might serve a certain kind of program, it's going to have to be specific in terms of the kind of program that you're looking at. What it does is it gives really great goalposts for programs that want to just be aligned with sustainability education. Maybe they're not seeking an accreditation, right? So at Georgetown, we have a program in sustainability and business. Half the curriculum very sustainability focused in the way that you would think of it from a sort of an environmental science perspective. Half of it very business. It's our McDonough School of Business faculty teaching in that. And so they're teaching things like corporate and social responsibility and all of these kinds of leadership things that complement the sustainability side of the degree program. They're not going to look for a sustainability accreditation because their whole curriculum isn't all on that, but they might align with the competencies and say, you know, here we are aligned with the key competencies of the accreditation organization, which we haven't figured that part out yet. Similarly with perhaps a minor in sustainability, right? It just gives you some really good goalposts to look at, to think, to be able to say, here are our learning outcomes and they align with these. So I've gone from very messy, not liking the idea, to 100% cheerleader. So that's my take on where we are.
Thank you, Allie. Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
Jump in, Krista?
Your perspective. Yeah, Julian, go ahead.
Yeah, hello, everybody. Good to see you all. And thanks for the opportunity to be part of the conversation. So big picture, I'm really excited to see the progress that has been made towards accreditation standards for sustainability programs. I think I was also somewhat skeptical that certainly that you would be this far already. So really, really great work to all the folks working on it. And I'm excited to see the broad scope of the grounded areas that you shared and the recognition of the importance of the institutional context, in addition to all the the program level stuff that is in the first 4 dimensions. And I think that's where the opportunity for alignment with STARS is, because STARS is at the institutional level as well. And just in case there are folks who aren't familiar with STARS, it's the Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System. And it's a tool that colleges and universities use to measure and report on their sustainability performance. So it's a whole campus assessment. And so there is, I think, a pretty good opportunity for alignment between some of the institution level stuff that you're looking at in the accreditation standards and what STARS is looking at. And from what I've seen, there's quite a bit of alignment in the specific topics as well as sort of the general concepts between what STARS covers and what you'll be looking at. However, the way in which STARS asks for data and the way in which an accreditation standard is likely to ask for data is probably pretty different, because STARS is based on it's a quantitative measurement system. So everything is designed to lead to a score. Everything's got to be translated to a specific score. So we have to be much more precise in what the requirements are to get points, whereas the accreditation standard can be a little bit more open and more, probably more narrative in structure, which I think is really cool because those approaches can complement each other really well. It does mean, though, that probably it's going to be difficult to create direct alignment of data fields, for example, between STARS and a program accreditation standards. But I do wonder if there's opportunities, or I suspect there are still opportunities for alignment in the vocabulary that we're using. And potentially, I'd be interested to explore the possibility of using STAR, like if you've participated in STARS, that could serve as a demonstration that some of the dimensions of the program accreditation standard are sort of met already because you've scored X amount in STARS, or just that you're a STARS participant potentially. So I think there's some opportunities for that, and I think there are also sort of a reciprocal opportunity that in STARS right now we award points for having both an undergraduate program and a graduate program in sustainability. And as this accreditation standard takes off, it would make sense for us to give you more points if your program is accredited through this system. So I'll be eager to explore both those opportunities for alignment as you continue to develop these standards. And I think that's about all I'll get to say, but thanks for having me.
Thanks, Julian. That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Julian Canary.
Hello. I wonder if I could ask, how many?
Use the
people
mic,
here-
use the mic.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Is that better? Okay. How many people here are from a university setting, higher education? Anyone from secondary? Oh, okay. Good to know. And how many of you work together with secondary institutions or higher ed, make that bridge happen? Okay, excellent. Well, I'm so grateful to GCSE and Arizona State University for bringing us together. This is amazing to be here in DC together, and I hope to have other opportunities. And Krista asked me to talk specifically about the skills gap. And so I thought the way to do that would be to talk about Zoe. Zoe is somebody that I worry about. When we had a conversation, you may have been part of it, that GCSE hosted on the same topic of competencies. We talked about her older brother, Lenny, who had started college during the pandemic and was concerned about sustainability and climate change and thought maybe he could pursue a job in that area, but his advisor didn't really know much about the opportunities. So he needs support from the faculty to engage. And that's where a program like accreditation and STARS comes in to offer guidance. Well, then there's Zoe, Lenny's little sister. She is in high school and she's thinking, maybe I won't even bother to go to college. Why don't I just pursue a trade? And maybe, I'll get into solar. And so what I would encourage all of you to do, and you may be doing it already, so I applaud you if you are, is to collaborate with the secondary institutions and help the teachers of students like Zoe understand that post-secondary education is going to be very important for her, regardless of what the media is saying. And you can help provide data, help make the case for your programs, and make the decision, do I go straight to Zoe or do I work with her teachers and the system? And you may decide it's more efficient to work with the system and provide support in many ways. And I could give a whole other talk about all the ways that you could provide support, and I won't do that, but I will give maybe two and say that, for example, if you're working on project-based learning and you're involved in the competency program and you're accrediting sustainability, why not collaborate with a local high school on a project-based learning initiative, or provide dual enrollment, or provide visitation opportunities to come learn about projects on campus and how they tie to employers and work-based learning experiences. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Maria.
Hi, good morning. I'm calling in from Dallas and it's freezing here. I can't imagine how cold it is in DC. So,
No,
came with-
no, it's 70 degrees.
What? Okay, I had to come with gloves here in Dallas to work. So thank you for this opportunity. I come, my background, I'm an urban planner, then I did urban and regional transportation. And then I worked with a lot of politicians and they wouldn't pay attention. So I said, I need to know more about politics. And so I did my PhD in political science, and I always kid my colleagues at the Global Council for Science and the Environment. I said, which is the most important science everybody should have? And they'd go like biology and chemistry. And no, it's social sciences because we all live and share one planet. So I come from the community college system. I'm in Dallas College. We have 120,000 students. And we've been going back and forth, you know, do we create a certificate and they graduate, or do we embed sustainability into all the courses, into everything we do? And we had 7 accredited independent colleges, and everybody was doing their thing. I was at Cedar Valley and we were doing our thing. We were graduating students with a green cord. And the way it worked was we trained the faculty as sustainable principles, trained faculty. They would share with us the types of assignments where they incorporated the sustainable development goals. And then we would certify the faculty. So we didn't have to go through all the curricula and see, oh, the curricula of this economics class actually is sustainability. So we certified the faculty. And those faculty, every course they did had a little green leaf. And then if they did 3 courses, they graduated with a green cord. My counterpart, Northlake, did they called it SAGE, and it has to be with sustainability. I can't remember what the A is, but the other one is global engagement. They were looking at it from a bigger, they had much more hoops to jump. So as we came into one Dallas College, what is Dallas College? Is it the Northway, the Northlake, the Richland, the Cedar Valley way? And so there's been a very interesting shift. And for me, when I was looking at all the grounded areas, for me, that grounded area of leadership and commitment to sustainability is everything for us, because all our careers have to solve a problem of the workforce. So in Texas, in DFW, if I don't have solar jobs, I mean, I could think that is so cool, and we can't get it approved. And we were pioneers. 10 years ago, we had a solar program. Guess what? All our graduates went to work in Colorado. And then 5 years later, when it was a business case in Texas, they came back. So the workforce piece is key for community colleges. We can't just create programs and degrees if they're not solving the workforce gap. And so I'll leave it at that. But I think this framework can help us to reduce that gap. Thank you, Krista.
Thanks, Maria. Great points, and you all timed yourself so perfectly, leaving us some minutes to take some questions. So Alex has been monitoring the chat. Nothing? Okay, great. We can take questions in the room. There's a mic on your table. You can press the button, and when it's green, speak into it like a microphone, and then the Zoom folks can hear you. What is alive in the room? Celessa.
Yeah, thank you. It's really enlightening. See from different dimension where sustainability actually goes. And I was thinking, it is everywhere. So we can't separate really sustainability program as separate. It should be in every degree program. So originally, when we were thinking about sustainability, is infusing sustainability concept across the curriculum. So when I see now, like we try to accredit as sustainability program, how to continue our role, our responsibility to infuse sustainability, transform all the program we do to make it sustainable. Because unsustainable program, I don't think it is sustainable. It will not exist.
Right.
So that's just
Right, yeah. When I was in the sustainability across the curriculum conversation at the University of Hawaii system, and we were putting sustainability focus on different courses, and people got really obsessed with then counting those courses and how many should be sustainability. And I was like, it's not about the counting, it's about transformation. It's about how we update the curriculum to remain fit to context. That whole idea was just a marker. How do you benchmark your progress in educating the faculty, upskilling the faculty, and transforming the curriculum? When I was speaking with Julian Dotremont yesterday, and we were talking about the STARS 3.0, and he said, yeah, there's going to be less emphasis on counting the sustainability courses. Do you want to speak to that, Julian? Oh, you're muted.
I am. Apologies. But yeah, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about it. So for those who are familiar with STARS, all the prior versions have had some number of points awarded based on the percentage of courses that include a sustainability focus or have some connection to sustainability. And what we realized over time is that led to pressure to count everything that could conceivably be linked to sustainability. And as you all probably know, sustainability is a pretty big topic. And a lot of things can be linked to sustainability to the point where what we were getting back wasn't all that meaningful. And it was super subjective. So some campuses would be very stringent, others would be a little bit looser. And we, in developing the newest version of STARS, which will come out probably in May of this year, we wanted to try to get the focus back onto doing an inventory of courses that's actually useful to campus stakeholders and that isn't based around counting every course that could conceivably be counted. So we are not awarding points anymore based on the percentage of courses that have sustainability in it. We are still looking at the percentage of departments that have a course related to sustainability. So there's still going to be sort of the need to do some kind of course assessment, but it doesn't have to be the kind of exhaustive check every single course and try to make a case for why it counts, or why it's connected to sustainability that I think some campuses used to do. So we hope that it both makes doing STARS easier and avoids this sort of race to the bottom of defining what counts as sustainability course. But to the larger question, I guess I do want to say, at least how we think about it, that we don't see sustainability across the curriculum as being in competition with this effort to define and strengthen more focused sustainability programming. I think we've got to do both. And we're be eager to work with GCSE on doing just that.
Right. We love the yes and in sustainability work, right? I was also thinking about the point that both Julian and Maria made about the faculty. I mean, the faculty are really the greatest asset of our universities. If we support the faculty and provide professional development, and even how we are preparing new faculty in PhD programs, right? So the faculty are really a leverage point as well. Maria, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to add that the way we measure the impact we're having is very important. The vice president of academics, she would say, okay, yes, 4,000 people, I was the sustainability chief officer for a campus. 4,000 people went to your events. How does that move the needle of retention, of completion? And there's a whole part of the administration of a higher education, which is only looking at those numbers. And so I think we all know more engagement, more chances of graduating, but how do we demonstrate that a student who has these competencies, it has better retention and better completion?
Thank you. It's been so interesting to, oh, please, a question in the room. Julie.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So my question dovetails off of yours in that, so I just came from a 30-year career in practice, and I do have a doctorate in sustainable finance, but am new to academia aside from when I was a student. So I think it's a really interesting concept of stock and flow, right? If you have a bathtub filled with water, the old example, and you want all of the incoming water to be sustainable, that's educating everybody in every class sustainably. But when you talk about the water that's in the bathtub, which in my world is all of the old portfolio managers that have been in finance forever and don't have any sustainability, what I experienced in practice was that we need very specific skills. So we need these degrees that are specific. So future jobs right now until we have the whole bathtub sustainable. So my question is, how much do you reach out to and interact with your future job stakeholders? So we have an advisory council of a panel of, top companies. And part of what I'm wondering is, how do we keep that information from the people that are going to hire our students and keep that embedded in our curriculum? And did you focus on that at all?
Excellent point and question. Thank you. We had a series of stakeholder roundtables. So first we talked with higher ed folks and program directors, and then we had a roundtable and invited representatives from different sectors of workforce, which we talk about as the workforce, and had a panel on workforce perspectives. So there's a recording of that. And then we had a panel with students and recent alumni for their feedback. And we've really been coming back to that workforce panel and what we heard there, and how to work more closely with employers, and particularly in a region, to have that conversation more closely and more contextually. A point that has stuck with me from that roundtable, one of the panelists there was like an HR representative. So she did a lot of hiring and recruiting. And she said, another thing is that not all of the workplaces are ready for the sustainability graduate who's a change maker and has all the key competencies and knows how to do this work and is ready to go. And then they come in because the employer hires them because they want them to do the ESG reporting and the recycling or whatever. And then they come in and hit a wall. So there is like a retraining and an education in the workplace as well that she pointed out. How do we stay with our graduates and support them as they become change agents in their workplace? It's that bathtub, right? How do they go and develop what's in the bathtub in the workplace as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because one of the ones we mentioned, Maria was talking about, and Julian as well, getting the high school students in for our undergraduate programs. But because I'm a program director for a master's program, mine is, should I go to those HR in the companies and say, and try to pitch my master's program so that more of their employees come and get a degree? So thank you for that.
Mhm. Yeah, accreditation, cannot solve all of these issues, but it can be a lever for transformation. And it has opened up a lot of these really interesting conversations. So having some type of industry advisory panel, we talked about that when we had the roundtable, informing the standards for program competencies and accreditation. And then we would want employers to value the accreditation so that they know what a sustainability graduate can do. Because now because of that messiness, a lot of times they don't know what one sustainability certificate versus a master's degree in sustainability, they don't really know what the difference is. Yeah, so how could an accrediting body help you with that conversation about your master's degree at sort of regional employers, nonprofits, agencies, and so forth? Yeah, really important point. Thank you. Alex, some questions from the chat?
Yes, first I'd like to just thank Maria, who I know she had to. Yeah, I got it. I wanted to thank Maria, who had to take off, but I appreciate her excellent comments. And now I want to share a comment from Rod Parnell. He asked a question about kind of the relationship between living learning laboratory initiatives, ASHE STARS, and the Pathways Initiative. So what kind of is the relationship between those three elements?
So I guess I could try to answer. I mean, so STARS awards points for campus as a living lab work. So we have, it's a credit in STARS for, I guess we call it applied learning opportunities in sustainability, but it includes campus as a lab type work. And then as I mentioned in my remarks earlier, we're interested in collaborating with these accreditation standards, incorporating them in STARS, or not incorporating the standards, but recognizing programs that have gone through the accreditation process, and hopeful about possible partnerships in terms of what the accreditation requirements are, and if STARS participants can have sort of an alternative pathway to documenting what they're doing in support of those accreditation areas.
Right. I thought of an interesting example, and then I see your hand, Rod. It's so good to see you. I visited Colorado Mountain College, and Tina Evans, who's done a lot of key competencies work, runs a program, undergraduate sustainability management program there. And they have a class called Sustainability Assessment and Tracking. And what the students do in the class is they do the STARS reporting for the campus. That's campus as a living lab in the sort of policy level. And this gives the students a thing on their transcript. I have taken sustainability tracking and rating, and that's a way that they can demonstrate that skill set to an employer. So the living lab piece is really important and unique to sustainability programs, and maybe some of the technical skills and the skills gap can actually be met. And the idea with campus as a living lab is that those skills can be developed by students while accelerating campus sustainability projects and getting things done on campus. But Rod, do you want to unmute and say more what you were thinking?
Sure, Krista, thanks. I guess it wasn't specific enough in terms of what I was asking, but Krista, you and Julian and so many other people have worked so hard at helping to coordinate and create a more communicative ecosystem in sustainability and higher education. And we see all these great living learning laboratory initiatives pretty much individually across campus, and maybe some loose links in organizations like the Ecological Society of America. But I wonder about the opportunity or the desire to basically try and link in either individual campuses or groups or consortium of universities that are working on improving their living learning laboratory initiatives. And of course, Krista's already done that with linking in Colorado Mountain College. But should that be a priority as we already look at these links between sustainability programs and sustainability education across campus?
Mhm. Thanks, Rod. That sort of what comes to my mind is that, yes, today we're really, we're still developing this idea and creating this idea of the grounded area standards. We envision this as part of a process, right? So accreditation, the heart of it is a self-study and a peer evaluation process. So we would like to support a cohort of program directors or perhaps partner institutions, a system, the Dallas district, as Maria mentioned, in accrediting their programs together. So it would give an opportunity for them to strengthen that network and learn from each other. And Campus as a Living Lab is a standard in the grounded areas. So they'd have a focused conversation. Well, how do you do it? And how do you do it? And what makes it work? And what are your barriers? So the process would be maybe cohort-based and peer-led and a developmental evaluation process, transformative evaluation. So thanks for that great point with Living Lab as an example of how we could do that.
Krista, I would just add that there is a network that exists already, a community of practice for some of these campus as living lab programs. So if folks are interested, they don't have there's an email list. I don't think there's like a web page or anything, but I can put you in touch with the relevant folks if you are not aware of it and would like to be part of it. Just reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat for those who are there, but otherwise it's just julian@hg.org if you want to know more about that.
Thanks, Julian. We're going to let our Zoom audience go. Thank you for being here. Recording will be available. We will send out the link to participate in the community of practice, just get regular updates, or participate in the beta test of the learning module. After a short break with our in-person DC audience, we'll be taking a deeper dive into the learning module, thinking through key competencies thinking through sustainability challenges with key competencies in sustainability. We'll look at a couple more of the videos and talk about how you could use this module. And then we'll look at the draft program best practices and standards in a few of the grounded areas. So thank you everybody for participating online. And thank you for all the tech support to make a hybrid meeting happen. It's really cool that you could all be with us and participate in this conversation. Thank you, Zoom friends.